everybody, how's it going this week? This topic's gonna be a little weird. It's gonna be a little different. And to discuss it, I kind of have to go and talk about other media forms of media too. But we're gonna talk about ethics in journalism. No, don't run away. It has nothing to do with gaming. Okay. Usually, when you hear that term "ethics in journalism," it has a connotation on the internet to really make you go, well, there's people who have to be ethical about calling for ethics in journalism. But that being said, we're going to talk about a story that's a little closer to the furry fandom's home. And it sort of revolves around a particular article that talked about and did on this channel here about Harbour City FurCon in Australia. And there was an article that was mainly referenced in that particular story from the Australian newspapers. So there's an issue here in today's digital media age where after publication and after posting things to the public space, things can be edited and changed rather readily. And in that particular environment, it is very easy to accidentally or purposefully change the course or change the history in which we find ourselves on. Let's talk about this for a second. So, as an editor at Flayro.com, there are moments where I have to make edits and changes to articles that have been made into the public space. One of the recent ones dealing with Denver FurCon's largest premier furry convention, having the largest one in the world, to have a premier year starting off. Basically, the first year convention is the largest first year convention that has been run, and we discussed that on that video up there. No, I did a written version of that article prior to doing the video one. And in that article, I had stated that Biggest Little FurCon was the prior record holder of that position at like 700 and like the high, it was like 900, 700 range. But somebody quickly pointed out that between the time that Biggest Little FurCon was the largest furry convention in the world and Denver became the largest convention, premier convention, there was actually one in the Philippines, which are, for those of you who are not geographically savvy, is that, we'll get into that a little bit later, is a string of islands that's around the Australia, sort of between the Australian and the Eastern Asia area, right? Apparently there was one there that was around 1,600 first-year attendees, which was the largest furry convention. And that happened this year at around May. Completely flew under my radar. And if I'd known about it, I apologize to those people who ran that convention. I would have done a news story about it. But I didn't hear about it. It completely flew in one ear, out the other, didn't even notice it. And I can attest to that mistake. To give myself some credit, I did when I was writing that article for Denver and the art things. I'm like, I did have to ask myself, I do believe that, Biggest Little FurCon was the largest one, but I'm not entirely 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure that that's the case. So I should probably do some research on it. And I got a little lazy and I said, well, you know what's going to happen? If I put down that was the case, somebody's going to correct me in the comment section pretty quickly, and I can make the fix on the mistake. Instead of blindly trying to go through and see what was the largest first convention and go through all these different conventions and trying to find which one was the largest one up before Denver. But I said, you know what? It's going to be much faster if I write the article in the way that makes it seem like that this is the factual, and if it's inaccurate, someone will correct me in the comment section, then I can update it and give them credit. So that's what I did. And sure enough, somebody in the comment section pointed out that it was incorrect, and I fixed it, and I put more, but most importantly, I put a thing under the blurb of the article saying, this has been updated, It was previously inaccurately stated that Biggest Little Fur Con was the largest one before this. It was actually this. Thank you to this commenter for, presenting that. So the article, from when I originally published it to when after that comment was made and I remade the edits and updated that, is different. But I noted the difference for many reasons. Number one, if you make an edit to an article like that without noting that you made an edit, then the people are going to think that the person commenting is crazy, right? That person's a little bit nuts. It's like, why is he pointing out an inaccuracy that's not part of the original article? Because there was an inaccuracy in the original article and the person corrected it. In general, in society, we need to get better at doing this. This is a really, really, really big pet peeve of mine when it comes to a lot of things, because I think it's what creates a lot of this social dynamic that we see in politics and in journalism in general, and why people can put out accusations of fake news all the time is because a lot of people in the news industry and in the political industry can get pretty defensive if they're told that they're wrong about something, and they might try to edit things and tweak it in a way that makes them feel infallible or try to make their organization seem infallible when they're actually not. They're run by human beings who make little mistakes. Unfortunately, there are individuals in this world who will grasp onto those small mistakes and those admissions of mistakes and then utilize it for their political advantage to say, well, this guy was wrong about this little thing and he admitted he was wrong to it, so how can you trust him on anything? And typically the people trying to sell those kind of things are individuals who are telling big lies and don't want them hiding. And so when a honest, organization looks at them and they go, wow, they made this mistake here, they're fake. They're all fake. And they made little mistakes here. They weren't necessarily lies, but then they try to make it bigger than it actually is. And I think that this sort of, this is why this is important to me, is because edits like this in nonfiction can be construed as to this. So that's my take on it. So the biggest thing here is when you make edits to articles that are already published, you note what the changes are. And this sort of comes into not even the nonfiction. We'll go over a little bit of how this sort of after publication updates have actually affected industries outside of journalism, but it's a very big one here. The reason I bring this one up is because there's a organization in the mainstream media, as we were talking about the Harbor City FurCon and the references here. I did a written form of the article that or the content that I did about Harbor City FurCon, and sort of utilized it in sort of and tried to do a motif where there was an article that one of my colleagues, a colleague of mine who I've met in the fandom, who actually went to journalism school, talked about classism within the furry fandom, because they were attending they're a local of Utah, and their name is Night Fox. They actually became a bunny, so Night Bunny, I don't know. They've switched personas from a fox to a rabbit. They changed, but so the issue here is that he attended a smaller local furry convention in Utah, and he went to Anthrocon. And his first initial experiences at Anthrocon versus, Utah, sort of showed him that there was a difference in how furry fans behaved at both of them. The larger furry could, the furry, now that I burped, the higher furry conventions, the ones with more population, seem to be a little bit more cliquey. They seem a little bit more like people have the people that they hang out with, and it can seem kind of isolating that, or he called it sort of classism. Like the article he wrote for Dog Patch, revolving around classism. I kind of, when I pre-read it for him, I'm like, well, you need more examples, right? You could say, well, yeah, it's cliquey and all that, but you need to give examples. What made you experience that? Why did you feel that way? And I thought, well, here, and I said, well, to myself, it's well, if we're going to talk about classism in the furry fandom, what happened at Harbor City FurCon is a blatant, like, big example of, like, here it is, like, here it is in its ugliness and all of its in splendor, I suppose. Like, here's a person who's looking down on people who don't have fursuits or who have crappy fursuits versus, like, his, you know, his posh and lovely, fluffy lifestyle. Lifestyles of the fluffy and famous. You know, that kind of a thing. So I felt, hey, this is a great example, and this is a great way to talk about this. So I linked to that article that I talked about in that video and talked about fursuites and the word fursuites. If you don't recall what the word fursuites was, it's like, well, those are just like fursuiters that spend less than $5,000 on their fursuit. They're cheaply made stuff. There's a fursuites. And I had a theory that it was actually supposed to be fursuities, and there was supposed to be two E's on the word, but something happened. Dogpatch responded to my article and said, what is this fursuite word? And I said, it's right there in the article that I linked. And then I read through the article looking for the word to quote to him. I literally controlled F. I was like, these are the same pictures on this article. The article has the same pictures. I recognize it aesthetically as the article that I read, because I know there was two articles from the same organization about this particular FurCon, and they had different images on it, and this was the one. But I did a control F for the word fursuite, and it didn't exist. Whew. It's gone. It vanished. The word was no longer there. So what I literally did is I looked at the picture that I had put on my video and compared it to where it was located in the article. And what I found is that the people at Australian News, at the news.au Australia organization, had edited their articles without indicating to the user that they had edited the articles. Here are the two different sort of styles that they had here. So let's go over the first one. This is the original. If I can click on it, right? Here's what the article originally said. And I can't read in fursuit, so you have to go pretty much any... You go to pretty much any city and just go to Facebook and you can meet up with people who are into the same thing. He said the weird furries, such as those into foot fetishes or overly into sexual aspects of the culture, can be spotted a mile away because of their over-the-top rainbow-colored fursuits. Which he got criticism on that too, like that statement about that kind of thing. And also, on this is the famous one, we call them fursuites, which is a code word which basically means somebody with a really bad fursuit, he said. One of the biggest misconceptions that furries have sex in suits, Mr. Collins said. So, there is the original context. There is the original statement on the article. That's where the word fursuites came from. That is where that colloquial term, which had no meaning in the furry fandom before the time, came to be, arrived. Here is what they changed the article to say. After, I don't know, but we'll go into that speculation a bit further. Here is those two lines in bold. Here's what it got replaced with. You can go to pretty much blah, 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 same sentence. A decent fursuit is a big source of pride for a furry, and it isn't just some tacky Halloween outfit you pick up at a costume store shop. One of the biggest misconceptions, blah, blah, blah. Tone's a lot different, isn't it? A lot of stuff that was revealing about the convention chair's feelings about other furries in the convention has been swallowed up. Clearly, in this case, I would suspect that the person writing for this particular news outlet really wants to get in good with these guys. Either they're trying to kiss up really, really, really hard to the people at Harbor City FurCon so that they can continue to have access to the convention chair, or their intent, or maybe they legitimately thought, oh, whoa, okay, we're getting a lot of heated comments from furries. Maybe we should change this article a little bit so that they're appeased. But to me, this is obscene. Like, this is really, really bad. Like, you make me look like a lunatic when I made a whole rambly video about fursuites or fursuites or whatever. Like, you make me look like a lunatic and a madman because you literally removed the word. You literally removed a part of our history. Whether or not it's good or bad, whether or not it's something that we want to have part of it, it existed. We learned a lot about a convention chair and their thoughts and feelings about people in the furry fandom. We learned a lot about our culture and a lot about, like, you know, maybe there is a sense of classism here that we should probably talk about. But now the news organization who originally started that conversation has decided, well, that conversation is no longer something that's viable. We want to try and for our best interest, we want to try to retain access to these particular people and, not see that their convention is harmed by our reporting. Because, hey, if the Australian news is based out of Sydney and they affect something that could harm the economy of their city, maybe there's a little bit of that going on too. I don't know. I can only speculate, and the only reason I can speculate is because they didn't come clean with it. Right? If you make a change to your article, if you change the words that came out of your mouth, you better have a reason for it. You better mark it and make a note of it. Because I should not have to go back to my previous things and see the article in a previous state and then have to make sure that you guys aren't messing it up. Because it drives people insane. And by the way, this is a small potatoes, right? What about politics? What about large, oversaturated issues that really get under people's skin? Are you guys going to start changing articles just because of the reactions that you receive based on those things? Based on right-wing and left-wing philosophies within the Australian government? What are you going to do? Are you going to do that? Because you shouldn't do that. Take it from a kangaroo who's a Yankee, okay? If you make a statement and it's an erroneous statement and later evidence comes to reveal that it's an erroneous statement, don't try to sweep the fact that you made an erroneous statement under the rug. My feelings here is that this is not just some simple erroneous statement. These are actual, the quotes that they had removed from the article were actual quotes from the person in question. And that they're trying to save grace or do something. But now you just made this whole Streisand effect because some stupid nerd who reads furry articles basically saw, you guys changed our history. You guys changed the article in which you wrote without people seeing it. But I saw it. I'm watching you. We're watching you. People in the media, in the professional media, should know better. They should be better. And quite honestly, this is the reason I behave the way I behave, because I behave in the way that I want to see changes, not just in the furry fandom, but in mainstream media. If you make a mistake and you F up, say, we F'd up, here's an update. And be honest about why you believe you F'd up. Because now all I can do is speculate. All I can do is speculate why Article A got changed to Article B. And as subtle as the changes are, there's got to be a reason for it. Are you guys trying to get in bed with the furries? Is that what you're trying to do? I know we sexy. I know you guys want to open door to the furry fandom. But you don't need the con chairs to do that. If the con chair is giving you grief because you quoted him, maybe tell the con chair, maybe if you didn't want us to tell people what you really felt, don't tell us what you really feel, right? You have some responsibility as an individual as well. So if you want to, throw a bunch of your furry fans under the bus just to make yourself look better, that's on you. That's not on us. That's not on the furry fandom, and that's not on the press. That's on you, man. Like, you got, and see, that's the whole thing, too, when you're in the media. And this is somewhat sort of a similar sort of ethical thing. If somebody asks you to make a change to an article, you should do it based upon, factual information. If there's opinion laced within the article by the writer, if they're reviewing something or whatnot, then, obviously the person might not have all the facts and using them correctly, and that's why they have their opinion. That's why they're called opinion articles. But when it comes to like articles that are presenting facts about things, and you change those facts, or if you alleviate those facts from the article, then you better have a good reason for doing it, and not just because of personal reasons or feelings, as it were. You better not doing it because it feels wrong, or because the person who originally talked to you has buyer's remorse about talking to you because you put their words on paper. And oops, that doesn't look good, does it? It's like this. If that was the act, and because here's the thing, those are probably actually words he said. I probably disagree with that. He said fursuites and not fursuites. That might be factually inaccurate. But if that's the case, then just change fursuite to fursuitee in that quote, and boom, bang, you're done. And say, yeah, we found a neologism that was thrown at us by a furry. By the way, furries love their neologisms, all right? We love making new words out of things. So it can be really hard to write for the furry fandom, and it can be really hard to do that because we love playing with words, right? So writing out words that just kind of get coined on the fly can be very difficult, and I can understand that. It makes my job really interesting. It's like, how do you write that? Okay, so at least most of the talking we do is online, so at least we usually see the written form of a word before we hear the spoken one. But that can leave its own interesting things, and that can be a whole other video, I'm pretty sure, is furry fandom, like linguistics and stuff like that, and that could be a very fun topic. But at the end of the day, it's like that's sort of what I feel about it, is that if you do make an edit to an article based on new facts that are given to you, you make an edit, you update it, and you make that edit. It can be a lot harder on video, for sure, because I do video now and I do also written works. You can't really do it on editing for videos, except that you kind of can, and it's very ethically dubious. It's more ethically dubious than changing written word for some reason, but it should be considered the same. For instance, I did one video that was sort of rambly and not really well rehearsed one night that talked about a certain political thing, and then I said that Poland was next to Russia, and that's blah blah blah, and that was talking about the modern era, and that was factually incorrect. There's Burius, like there's a line of countries that was made between Eastern Europe and Russia after the Soviet Union dissolved. And because, World War II history is the thing that we spend like probably 70% of our time in our history classes in the United States on, like I completely forgotten and it just went through my mind that there was a line of countries between Poland and Russia that was caused by the sort of the end of the Cold War era's thing with Soviet Union collapsing and stuff like that. And that was my mistake, and that was an error. And in the comment section, when people pointed out, I pointed out, yep, you're right. That is factually incorrect. And the best thing I could probably do in that situation is to go to that video, put a pinned comment saying that there was this factually incorrect statement that I said here. So that way, that's the first thing people see on that video. Or I could I could edit that part out somehow and then repost that thing and then note on there. But importantly, note that I'd made that mistake and that was what was removed from that video. So that way I'm not bombarded with comments about it. Because unfortunately, like if you leave an error up on something, people will tell you you're wrong until the end of fucking time, and they won't Sorry for the language, but that's just how the internet freaking is, all right? They will go down, like they will repeatedly tell you something that somebody had already told you, not realizing that somebody else had already told you because somebody else... But by the way, good job for you because you're actually watching the video before reading the comment section, which is a good thing. But at the same time, it's like, when you find an error on the internet, particularly in a video, you do really need to take the time and go, did somebody catch this already? Because I can't be the only one who did it. This is something that I've started doing, is if I think of a witty joke, like if I see a comment, if I see a tweet, or if I see a video, and I go, here's a witty comment that I thought in my brainstem right now, but if it's something that I think, well, it's probably going to be a common thing that people point out. So I'm going to scroll down, I'm going to read the comment section and see if any of the popular comments or statements says the same thing as I did. And if they did, I'll just support that one instead of saying it again, because the person who made the original content's probably going to get annoyed about somebody saying the same thing over and over and over again to them. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, 2 + 2 is 4. You didn't know that, idiot? 2 + 2 is 4. 2 + 2 is 4. 2 + 2 is 4. Hey, did you know 2 + 2 is 4? It's like, yeah, I got it. Okay, good. 2 + 2 is 4, guy. All right, I got it. Okay? All right? So it's something you also have to understand is that a lot of people are like, when the best way to figure out if you're wrong about something is to say it of something that's factually incorrect and then expect someone to correct you. In journalism, that is actually an effective tool as well. If you don't know something is factually incorrect, right or wrong, you can actually present the wrong case to somebody and they will correct you on it if you're not careful. This is why a lot of people in the intelligence community, when faced with an inquiry by certain people in the press that makes that it's sort of a leading question, that someone makes an accusation that something happened, they'll go, I can neither confirm nor deny that that happened. That's why they say it that way, because like if I'm trying to figure out like, hey, what 2 + 2 is, like, so let's say I don't know what 2 + 2 is. I go up to a guy, go, hey, did you know 2 + 2 is 5? And that guy will respond, oh man, 2 + 2 is 4. Oh, okay, thank you very much. It's good to know, thank you. And then you could try that with a few other people. It's like, hey, did you know 2 + 2? I heard 2 + 2 is 5. Is that true? Oh, no, 2 + 2 is 4, man. Oh, thank you very much. You see what I'm saying here? Like, if you say something that's factually incorrect and you don't know whether it's correct or incorrect, you can wait for somebody to correct you on it, and then you can get information that way. Is it ethical? Depends on what it is, but it's something. It is a trick that journalists use. So if you do this, and if you ever wondered why that we can neither confirm nor deny statement is very popular and is very popularized in the lexicon, it's not because it sounds cool. It's because they're trying to tell you, it's like, I know what you're doing, and you can stop that stuff right now. You're trying to get me to say something by presenting me factually incorrect statements and making me want to correct you. Because us as human beings, we like to try and correct people when they're wrong. So just keep that in mind too. That's kind of an interesting little topic in and of itself. It doesn't necessarily have to do with that particular statement, but that's just sort of how it is. And this, I didn't go to journalism school, by the way. I've just noticed this from interactions and how these things work. So I guess like at the end of this thing, I guess we could talk a little. If you need to make changes because you don't want to misinform people, because you made a factual incorrect statement, like saying that Poland is next to Russia in the modern era, which it's not, then make the correction and state the correction and make it clear that there's a correction. If you are making changes because your intent wasn't fully fulfilled in what you said and you accidentally went, oops, I might have touched a nerve by actually stating what I actually heard, don't change it. If you do decide to change it, you better write up why you changed it. Because people like me are going to notice it, and we're going to start making a rambly video for 30 minutes calling you out on it. Because if you're going to do it here, how do we know you're not doing it for your politicians? How do you know you're not doing it for the people in power to make them more comfortable? Because you shouldn't be doing that. It's not ethical, and it really obfuscates the truth. And if people are doing that, they need to stop doing that, particularly if they're in this business, because that's their job, is to tell people what's going on, not what they want to have happen, and not bring their arbitrary goals into it, like trying to get cozy with people at conventions and in the fandom. That's not your job. Your job is to report on what, if they said something to you and you use that quote in the paper. First off, if you're not sure if it's a good quote to use and you want to be in the good graces of the person you're using the quote from, maybe you should talk to the person that you talk to and give them a rough copy of the thing. And if you do give them a copy of that and they say, "Oh yeah, that's okay to print," and you print it and they get backlash for it, then you can go, "Well, that's your fault, you dummy. You told us that was okay to print." Right? So do your due diligence, do your job, and stop making me have to make videos about you changing 2 sentences on your paper. I mean, come on now. But anyways, I'm gonna get the hop out of here. I ranted about changes all the time, and so if you like what you see, kick that like, kick a comment in the comment section, kick the subscribe button, I suppose. I'm gonna get the hop out of here. What do you think? What is an example? Do you have an example of somebody changing sort of what they said in this sort of subtle manner without really like owning up to the fact that that's what they said or something? And I know a lot of you 2 fans who are watching are going, "You do it all the time, Rue." It's like, no, I don't. That's his opinion, and that's my opinion, and they're 2 different opinions. Doesn't mean that there's factual things that need to be fixed on it. And he misconstrued some of the facts I said. I misconstrued some of the facts he said. That's different. There's a little bit of a difference when you're talking about cordial things versus like actual, like changing quotes from actual people in the actual thing and trying to obfuscate the fact that you published something. Those are 2 completely different monsters. And if you try to misconstrue the 2 different things, then you're part of the problem. Sorry to tell you, but you are. Anyways, I'm going to get the hop out of here. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good one.